Good morning, everyone, or good day or evening. Um, I would like to start out this video by thanking my good friend Michael Mess, who also goes by Michael Wave and Michael Money, uh, for drawing the sprites for my current character that I will be using in this series and maybe even future videos not related to the tank game showcases. Um, and also, I would like to say don't expect this to be a weekly, bi weekly, or even a monthly series, as it'll probably just come out whenever I just feel like it. So, yeah. If you enjoy the video, just I don't know, consider leaving a like or whatever YouTubers say, and say that Michael did a good job drawing the sprites. And yeah, enjoy the video, I guess. Bye bye. Hello, and welcome to the first actual series on my channel. In this series, I will go over random Armored Warfare related games that I find on Steam in an easily digestible manner. I don't have a point system or anything, so these reviews will usually just be my raw opinion rather than a professional rating. And speaking of Armored Warfare, our first game is just that, Armored Warfare. So, what is this Armored Warfare game, you might be wondering, and I will tell you about it soon. Armored Warfare, the game, is a game about armored vehicles, obviously. What is unique about this game is that it ditches the generic country-based research trees in turn for dealers, which deal specific tanks based on region and playstyle. Yes, you can play as a mercenary in this game, rather than a generic military man in a generic sand conflict or a generic Second World War setting. We will go over the dealers later, but keep that in mind. Another thing that makes the game unique from other tank games is that it's not exclusively player versus player, featuring mainly player versus environment mentality, which, in my opinion, many tank games lack. These PvE style modes are mainly self-contained missions, which the players have to complete in a set amount of time while fighting off enemy tanks. Now, let's get started with going more in depth with the dealers. Right. So let's get into the starter tanks and the dealers. First of all, you start out with 4 tanks which are completely free, so no need to spend any of your hard-earned money to spec into a new research tree. Of course, there are some research trees which require you to reach a certain point in the game to spec into, but by the time you reach the requirements to unlock them, paying the price to spec into those shouldn't really affect you. I will now go over each dealer and try to explain what makes them unique from the last. So if this game sounds interesting to you, here's what each dealer offers. Souls tanks are mainly for beginners, as tanks up to tier 5 get a permanent double XP bonus. All of Souls tanks originate from Israel, ranging from the humble Super Sherman to the Merkava 4M. It is great for starters who don't exactly know what they are getting into, simply because Soul's lineup mainly consists of main battle tanks, which are heavily armored and have a lot of health points, making them incredibly easy to use. I personally have yet to play Soul's lineup, simply because I don't care for Israel or its armor, but I won't get into that in this video. Overall, it's a pretty powerful dealer to spec into, but lacks diversity, which can make it incredibly boring. Much like real-life Israel. Sophie's dealership is made up mainly of general-purpose main battle tanks, such as the M1 Abrams line, the Leopard 2, and infantry fighting vehicles like the BMP-3 series and Bradley line. Alongside the previously mentioned MBTs and IFVs, Sophie's inventory also has a few light vehicle lineups, such as the mostly French Scout Car route and the wheeled tank lineup featuring the Centauro and Striker mobile gun system. Overall, Sophie's dealership is a good starting point for the European and American vehicle enjoyers, as it features some incredibly armored vehicles, such as the previously mentioned Abrams and Leopard series of vehicles, while also having a little bit more of everything for those who want something more specialist. Marat offers almost exclusively Soviet and uh, Russian main battle tanks and infantry fighting vehicles. Marat's tanks mainly offer high damage output with outrageously powerful heat shells and ATGMs, while also offering highly protected vehicles, which make the later tiers a lot more forgiving to play. If Soviet tanks don't tickle your fancy, Marat has one saving grace in the form of the American airborne tank line and the British main battle tank line, both of which heavily feature HESH, which are incredibly fun to play with as they damage subsystems with ease. If you like tanks like the T-80, T-90, BMDs, or if you just want something that hits like a truck, Marat is best for you. Let's be real. People mostly play Feng's lineup simply because it is the only dealership that features self-propelled howitzers. If you don't care for howitzers, then Feng can offer you a wide range of mainly Chinese main battle tanks and mainly Eastern European, that's Czech and Polish, IFV lineup. It is a very unremarkable and one of the more rare lineups you'll see players use in game. So if you want powerful gun tanks, or you just have an interest in Chinese vehicles, or you're Polish, then Zhang is probably best for you.
Aš įbanutas pacukas, aš dalbajobas. Tiksliau aš dalbajobanu dalbajobus, bet aš ne dalbajobas. Kažkas sako, kad aš nusileidžiu iki jų lygio, aš ne dalbajobas. Esu kas esu, kuo esu, tu didžiuojos, kas skliuoja etiketas, tas dalbajobas. Sukau rastą dredų smirda kaip rastą dredai. Nupisau pederastą, nuskrido jo kėdai. Aš nupisau pederastą.
This dealership is the first exclusive dealership. You just have to own a certain amount of vehicles before you get in. Once you're in, you'd be disappointed if you expected something incredibly unique, because it is just mainly an Italian and French oriented dealership, with the exception of the Asian subtree featuring the main prize, which is the K2 Black Panther. If you like unique European vehicles like the Leclerc AMX 30 and 40 and the Ariete, or you just like Korean vehicles, then this is where you get them. Overall, it's pretty mediocre all things considered. The AMX 30 and 40 are pretty powerful early game, but the Leclerc Proto is a real hit or miss. Spec into Lorraine at your own risk. The last and most exclusive dealer, featuring mainly late game vehicles. It is a really complicated process unlocking some subtrees, but it's mainly prototypes and rare vehicles that you can get by unlocking certain vehicles in previous mentioned dealerships. A lot of the vehicles are very powerful, but also niche. I don't have any vehicles in it as of yet, because I don't find any of them particularly interesting, but it's something to take note of. Moving on to the actual gameplay side of things, I will be talking about the PvE mode in this review, as PvP is nothing special. Quick explanation of PvP is that it's very much like what you'd expect if you've ever played a modern tank game. You choose your tank, you get placed into an arena, and the first team to completely wipe out the other team wins. Sometimes there are capture objectives, but like in every tank game, nobody plays the objective. Either way, not many people play PvP here, surprisingly enough. Most people play the PvE modes simply because they are more polished. And since we're talking about PvE, I will now go over the main three game modes of PvE. First game mode, which is the only one you have in the beginning, is the basic operation game mode. It is pretty straightforward. You have a select few missions which rotate every 6 minutes in a completely random pattern. Once you're in an operation, you are typically matched up with 4 other people, so you always have someone to cover your back. Each mission has its own tasks, but usually they boil down to capturing and holding points, with the occasional destruction of enemy armor. In-game, you will run into lots of tanks, and the combat is pretty simple at first. Don't be afraid though, most tanks are given the Fragile perk, which makes the enemy tanks significantly weaker in terms of HP, making them a lot easier to take out. Combat is very simple. You simply aim at the weak points of your enemy and shoot, while also making sure to hide from oncoming enemy fire. You know when you are aiming at a weak point when your crosshair lights up green. If it's colored yellow, then that means you have a chance of penetrating, but most likely wouldn't, depending on your shell. And of course, red means you cannot penetrate the enemy armor at all. That's about it gameplay wise. It's a pretty fun loop of going from mission to mission all over the world, trying out new tanks and fighting more powerful enemy tanks as you rise up the armored food chain. The second game mode is Hardcore Operations, which is simply a harder version of basic operation game mode. You unlock Hardcore once you unlock your first tier 4 vehicle, and that's for a good reason. In Hardcore, you deal with vehicles in your tier range. They may not sound incredibly difficult, but keep in mind you're fighting hordes of enemy vehicles, and on top of that, some vehicles may spawn with the superior modifier, which increases the HP of the enemy tank, resulting in them being a tad bit tougher to crack. But your troubles are rewarded, as Hardcore gives you 30% more XP gain and 100% more money gain, which makes it the most popular game mode of the bunch solely because of the increased reward. Then lastly, you have Special Operations. Special Operations come in campaigns, with the main campaign being named Black Company, which at the time of writing the script has only 2 playable missions. Of course, there are more campaigns, which rotate weekly and are playable for 3 days before rotating again. But those are beyond the scope of this review. Gameplay wise, Special Operations are much longer and require a lot of patience to complete without dying midway through. But since they are much longer, they also drop more rewards if you manage to do well. So, Special Operations are a mixed bag depending on your general skill and vehicle. Upon completion of a match, you get rewarded XP, money, and Battle Path tokens. We will discard the Battle Path tokens simply because there is no point in talking about the Battle Pass. What matters is what you can get on your own. Back on track, The XP gained from all missions will be applied to the vehicle that participated in the battle. Said XP will fill the unlock bar, which when filled will allow you to purchase the next vehicle in the line. On top of that, the XP you gained can also be used to buy upgrades for the vehicle. This means you can purchase upgrades like improved smoke launchers, new ammunition types, general upgrades which improve stats, new armor packages, you name it. Some upgrades will require you to pay in-game money to apply, but they usually cost less than what you gain, so it's not a huge setback. And do remember, using XP to upgrade your tank does not take away from the progression bar, so do not be afraid to spend XP on upgrades. This brings us to the next chapter, personalization. In Armored Warfare, you can customize your vehicle to your heart's content. As you play the game, the more camos and base paints you will unlock. It's really interesting when the game allows you to mix up base paints and camo patterns to create your own camouflage for your own tank. Application of camo patterns not only makes your tank look more unique, it also applies a 5% extra camo value, making your tank ever so slightly harder to spot. Then on top of camos, there are also stickers and banners in the game that you can apply to your tanks, which don't give any boost apart from making your tank even more personalized. Though you will have to unlock the flags with gold before you can apply them to your tank. Another part of customization comes in the form of loadouts and armor packages. As previously mentioned, you can unlock extra ammunition types and armor packages. Armor packages don't really have much to say to them. Usually it's either extra applique armor plates, which can make your tank slightly more armored, or it's explosive reactive armor packages, which do actually work as intended and can stop heat shells and heat missiles from causing damage to your tank. Though ERA can be defeated by Sabo or Tandem warheads, which are made to trigger the explosive armor before actually detonating the heat part. Ammunition, on the other hand, is worth talking about, as this game has a lot of ammunition types. But because we're in a slight time crunch, I'll keep it simple and just name the basic ammo types you'll be using in the game. First, you have Sabo, which is your most basic form of armor-piercing round. Every single tank has this shell type, either in form of APFSDS darts or regular APDS slugs, like on British main battle tanks. You simply point and shoot at the enemy. It's a very simple ammo type to use, and it has no downsides apart from sloped armor. Second, you have high explosive, which is simply just a shell of pure explosive. HE typically does a lot of damage, but it has very poor penetration, so do keep that in mind when using HE shells in your tanks. High explosive anti-tank, which is a shaped charge warhead with insane penetration and insane damage output. It's overall the best shell in my opinion, but it struggles against ERA and sloped armor. And lastly, you have high explosive squash head, which is a more viable high explosive shell. Though unlike the HE shell, it doesn't do nearly as much damage. Though where it lacks in damage, it more than makes up in subsystem damage and penetration. Hesh might be one of the weaker ammo types in terms of damage, but the subsystem damage really goes a long way once you put it to good use. Of course, there are more ammo types such as ATGMs and special shells, but those typically fall into one of the four categories I already listed. And with that said, let's move on to the problems I have with the game. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. While yes, the game may be fun, and I do really enjoy the game, it has one really huge problem that just comes from being a free to play game. It is monetized to hell and back. You have vehicle packs which go up to €80, loot crates for vehicles, time limited tank sales on the in game store, premium accounts, gold, and battle passes. While I personally think Armored Warfare is the most fair of the free to play tank games in terms of progression, having constant drops of premium that the players can get for free, and giving daily 2 times and 4 times XP to make progression easier, it still has the problem of certain tanks being locked behind paywalls. For example, some tanks which you'd think would be in a research tree are simply just not there. The K1 tanks are considered premiums, while the K2 Black Panther is in the Lorraine research tree, which simply doesn't make sense. Sometimes it's just really disappointing to see a vehicle you'd enjoy playing in the vehicle search, only to realize it's a premium and it's not even available on the store at the moment. Hey, this is off the script, but seeing the line, sometimes it's just really disappointing to see vehicles you'd enjoy playing in the vehicle search only to realize it's a premium and it's not even available in the store at the moment. Yeah, I wrote that before the Abrams X event. There are events that give you free vehicles, so keep that in mind. Secondly, there is a huge bug in the game which causes the game to freeze when loading into certain missions. Of course, that can be fixed by the player if the player closes the game and opens it straight after the game freezes, but that gets really annoying whenever playing for a prolonged period of time. What would be nice is if there was a voting system instead of a set rotating mission, because that would allow for the players to pick maps which are known to not cause crashes, thus allowing the people to experience less problems by simply voting maps which do not freeze the game, while the devs fix them in the meanwhile. But I guess it's not too much to just wait the 5 minutes until the map rotates. And that's all for my critique. I could talk about the progress feeling slow around tier 7 and tier 8, but I don't see the point as it is still more forgiving than most tank games which feature research trees. Overall, Armored Warfare is a pretty inoffensive tank game. To me, it is very enjoyable, and definitely worth a shot if you fit the requirements. It's pretty fast paced, it strays away from the norm of PvP only tank games, in exchange for an interesting PvE based type ordeal. It features plenty of interesting features like working explosive reactive armor, custom loadouts, many ammo types, lots of tanks to fit as many playstyles as possible. It's just a fun game. I don't have much to say against it apart from it suffering from free-to-play game syndrome. I do highly recommend you try it if the game looks interesting to you. It's a good game for both casual and veteran vehicle combat game players, simply for its forgiving nature, diverse vehicle selection, and interesting mechanics. There's a lot more to the game than just what I've listed in this review, such as active protection systems, which you'll have to check out for yourself if the game sounds interesting. If I had to give it a rating from 1 to 10, I'd give it a solid 9.5 out of 10. That's about it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you when I see you. Take care, everyone.